Federal government to address misconceptions on the use of modern biotechnology for food security.
Lai Mohammed runs off US and UK trips with satisfactory report from the international community.
Reducing illiteracy. Government to establish literacy centers in all 144 federal government colleges in the country.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall take a look at the implication of Justice Walter Onnoghen's conviction and judgment.
Now, Jume, it is no longer news that Justice Walter Onnoghen's name was removed from the National Judicial Council members list over the weekend.
Yes, Kieran, that appears to be the latest trending news about the former Chief Justice of Nigeria, who was found guilty last week of asset declaration charges by the Code of Conduct Tribunal in Abuja.
That's right, Jume. The Code of Conduct Tribunal tried and convicted Justice Walter Onnoghen for failure to fully declare his assets. Along with his sack as Chief Justice of the Federation, Onnoghen is to forfeit the funds in all 5 of his undeclared bank accounts.
And Kieran, there have been some mixed reactions following that conviction and sentence by the CCT last week. Some have called it a harsh, citing the fact that so many public officials in sensitive positions in Nigerian government have not declared their assets, and no such light has been beamed on any one of them as far as we know right now.
Yes, this is maybe why some non-governmental organizations and judicial watchdogs have poked holes and allegedly found flaws in the procedure leading to the guilty conviction of Justice Walter Onnoghen by the Code of Conduct Tribunal. Most of them cite the proceedings leading to the verdict as unfair.
I would say that's best left to Walter Onnoghen's lawyers and others in the judiciary to debate when they get round to the appeal of the judgment. The question I want to ask, though, is what is the implication of the trial and conviction of Justice Walter Onnoghen, and what does it mean for the fight against corruption in Nigeria?
Well, Jume, I have also been asking how Walter Onnoghen's conviction will set the tone for transparency among public office holders in the Nigerian government. What lessons can Nigerians learn from the fall of the former Chief Justice? We will have guests in the studio to look into these issues and more later on in the program.
We will also have guests to discuss a bit of pension matters, specifically the planned nationwide verification exercise for pensioners by the Pension Transition Arrangement Directorate under the Defined Benefit Scheme.
And that's not all, Jume, because our third and last item for conversation this morning will be about malaria in Nigeria. We will look at ways Nigerians can help in malaria prevention, as well as the role of health workers in ensuring accurate diagnosis and data generation for the country. Thanks for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria this Tuesday. My name is Kirian Umayo.
And I am Juma Yusuf. It's always a pleasure to have you join us on Good Morning Nigeria, broadcasting live on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA, reaching you live from Abuja. As usual, we shall bring you the complimentary part of the program, including newspaper review, business, sports, foreign, and entertainment news. This morning's news is next with Elizabeth Omori. Hello, Elizabeth.
It's nice to see you. Thank you so much. Good morning. The presidency has reacted to the homily by the Catholic Bishop of Yola Diocese, Reverend Father Stephen Mamza, who broke the old tradition of staying above politics in a homily in which he spoke angrily against President Muhammadu Buhari, who he described as sleeping on duty as Commander-in-Chief. In a statement, the senior special assistant to the president of media and publicity, Garba Shehu, described the assertion as an unfair comment. It says there is so much that has changed in the past 3 to 4 years in and around Yola, in the Catholic Church in particular, that a true assessment would show that, but for the changed administration of President Buhari, things would have continued the way they were, or even worse. He recalls that Bishop Mamza was and is still a strong member of the Adamawa Peace Initiative, composed of religious and community leaders, which did the lovely work of housing and feeding 400,000 displaced persons from northern Adamawa and Borno states in 2015. Meanwhile, Information and Culture Minister Lai Mohammed has rounded off his trip to the United States and United Kingdom with satisfaction that the international community is desirous of supporting the President Muhammadu Buhari-led administration in making Nigeria work in the overall interest of the citizens.
What I take home is that we need to change the narrative. We've done very much. The think tanks and the influential people appreciate what we have done. They know, interestingly enough, they are actually also on the same page with us. But the wider American society, the wider British society it's our next target.
And also science and technology, the federal government is to come up with a policy that will address misconception on the use of modern biotechnology to enhance the nation's food security. Ministry of Science and Technology is to draft the policy in collaboration with relevant agencies, including the Federal Ministry of Agriculture.
The federal government of Nigeria has embraced modern biotechnology, and it is here for good. We will continue to engage with the media to inform the public about scientific innovations going on in this sector.
The whole National Agricultural Research System, we believe strongly in the powers of biotechnology to significantly contribute to the development of agriculture in this country.
Let's now talk education. In its continued efforts to reduce illiteracy and meet the educational needs of the illiterate class in the country, government will establish literacy centers in all the 104 federal government colleges in the country. Permanent Secretary, Minister of Education, Sonny Ekono, stated this at the launch of Pilot Literacy Center at Federal Government College, Otobi, Benue State, one center out of the 6 to be established in the political zone of the country. The pilot, that is starting with about 20 federal government colleges, is targeting non-literate cadre workers such as matrons, cooks, watchmen, drivers, cleaners, gardeners, as well as other people within the host communities of the federal government colleges. Ekono said to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals SDG 4, which is ensuring inclusive and equitable quality education and promote long life learning opportunity for all, there's need to consider this group of people.
To the glory of God and the improvement of the literacy and numeracy of the workers of this college as well as the immediate community. It is my honor and privilege to launch these instructional materials for this adult and mass literacy program.
Now to security. Following renewed joint military offensive in northern Borno and terrorists, the Boko Haram group is been restricted to the island of the Lake Chad. This was contained in a message of the Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tuko Buratai, on Easter, an operational visit to troops fighting the sect in northern Borno.
We must never, ever allow the reverse to be the case again. Now we are on the offensive. We should never be withdrawn back to defensive. The Chief of Army Staff, Nigeria as a whole, appreciate you, and they are doing all possible to liaise with the political leadership to make sure the requirements we are lacking are provided.
Meanwhile, following credible intelligence, troops of Operation Harbin Kunama 3 attacked and killed 6 bandits in Kesa and Sunke in Anka local government area of Zamfara State. A statement by the acting Army Public Relations Officer, Colonel Sagit Musa, indicates that several arms and motorcycles were recovered during clearance operation. Similarly, in Doka and Mutu villages in Gazot local government area of Zamfara State, troops on patrol had an encounter with bandits, leading to the arrest of 18 suspected informants to the bandits, including the village heads of Doka and Mutu. The force commander, Major General Hakim Oladipo Otiki, reiterated the resolve of troops to tackle banditry and other forms of criminality in Zamfara, Kebbi, Katsina, and Sokoto states. And that's the news on Good Morning Nigeria. More to come with Jumai and Kirian after the break.
What's up?
His friends didn't come.
Hey, let's practice.
But you're going out.
Don't worry about me.
Nothing satisfies a mother more than seeing a child grow up. But I know as he sweats, he'll face the risk of germs which can cause skin irritation.
That's why you need the new best ever Dettol Cool. Its new advanced formulation with extra menthol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs and gives your family icy cool freshness.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
Marketing of broadcast media products requires special skills which can only be acquired through training and experience. NTA TV College Jos is therefore organizing an intensive 3-week course on modern trends in broadcast media marketing. The course will equip participants with necessary skills to deal with contemporary marketing challenges and competition in the broadcast media. It is an essential course for marketers in the broadcast media to sharpen their skills and improve their capacities. Date 23rd April to 10th May 2019. Venue NTA Television College Refuge Jos. Course fee 100,000 naira per participant, accommodation inclusive. For more inquiries, please contact us on 0803 314 4383 or 0806 980 9807. NTA TV College Jos, training you to be the best you want to be.
In today's world, it's tough being a woman. But thanks to So Clean, Nigeria's #1 detergent with stain magnet technology, doing washing is a whole lot faster and smarter too. Only So Clean has stain magnet technology with an advanced enzyme formula that pulls out even the toughest trapped dirt, just like powerful magnets. No wonder Nigerians love So Clean. So Clean, for a faster, brighter, cleaner wash.
If you hear a bomb explosion or gunshots of an active shooter, that might be a terror attack. At such times, always remember 3 action words. Run, hide, report. Don't try to run towards the terror scene to save the situation, because there might be a second bomb blast or another attack. Run far away and take cover. Make sure you are safe first. Yes, it is in our nature to sympathize over the hurt, but remember, only trained personnel can help in such situations. When in a secured environment, promptly call relevant authorities and help will come. For anonymous reporting, call 09630-3250-5 or 0813-2222-106. If you see something, say something. Nigeria unite against terrorism. This message is brought to you by the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
Helen!
Hey, where's your mom?
Today is her toilet day.
What?
Helen!
Toilet day?
Tomorrow you're hosting a party and it's a matter of my reputation.
Even if you spend your entire day cleaning with all this, it still won't be party ready.
Impossible! Challenge?
New Ticker Harpic 10X. Even if you use this solution 10 times, it won't give you the same cleaning like Harpic, because its new Ticker formulation sticks to the bowl better, giving you a sparkling clean toilet.
Wow!
New Harpic 10X
gives me the freedom from toilet day.
Thanks for staying with Good Morning Nigeria. Now, federal government says Nigeria is not near debt crisis as credit to the private sector rises by 5.3%. Let's now join Comfort Amodu for details.
Reports from CBN Depository Corporation survey indicates that credit to the private sector increased by 5.37% to 24.16 trillion naira, while 11.42% month-on-month credit to the government rose to 6.35 trillion naira. The survey further revealed a surge of 3.22% month-on-month in broad money to 34.79 trillion naira in February 2019 from 33.72 trillion naira in January 2019. These, according to CBN, resulted from an 11.80% month-on-month increase in net domestic assets to 17.77 trillion naira, accompanied by a decrease of 4.44% month-on-month in net foreign assets to 17.02 trillion naira.
And what that meant is that we will continue to do what we're doing, but at the same time, we still keep our eyes on the ball to say we will continue to focus on the priority sectors of the economy: agriculture, manufacturing, ICT, the youth, the creative industry, the fashion industry, building more technology hub, to see to it that we look at this as priority sector that will enjoy the central bank intervention, even at single-digit interest rates, because we believe that these sectors will be those sectors that will continue to stimulate growth and create jobs on a mass scale for our people.
Meanwhile, the federal government says Nigeria is not in anywhere near a debt crisis despite its 24.39 trillion naira debts. Despite its 24.39 trillion naira debts, Minister of Finance Zainab Ahmed said the debt figure as of December 31, 2018 comprised Eurobond loans. Facilities from the World Bank Group, China and Africa Development Bank Group constitute over 80% of the total debt stock. This represents a year-on-year growth of 12.25% and is higher than the 2017 figure by 2.662 billion naira.
For us in Nigeria, we're still very much within our borrowing limits. As you know, today our total debt is 19.1% of our GDP. Our fiscal responsibility commitment is not to exceed 25% of our GDP, so we still have headroom. What we're doing is to increase our revenue generating capacity to ease the burden on debt service and also to improve our expenditure outlays.
In the meantime, the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission says it's considering a new regulation to allow third-party investors to take up and maintain parts of the vast electricity distribution networks owned by the DISCOs. The regulatory agency said the proposed regulation was necessitated by the lack of capacity of the DISCOs to deliver electricity to many consumers.
And that has been business news with Comfort and Modu. And next is newspaper review.
And our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atiobi, is in the studio. Welcome, Bayo, to Good Morning Nigeria. Good to see you.
Good morning, Jume. Good morning, Kyria.
Good morning.
Thank you.
And
good morning, Nigeria.
Yeah, we have about three national dailies here this morning, plus, of course, the editorial. And I have the Nigerian Tribune here. Let's begin with the Nigerian Tribune. Above the nameplate of the Nigerian Tribune, we have UTME, 100 arrested nationwide, 2 centers shot in Abuja. With the rider, JAMB reveals how machinery registers 64 times to write for 64 candidates. All right, and FAC disbursed 1.92 trillion naira to 3 tiers of government in 3 months, says NBS, that's the National Bureau of Statistics. And now below the nameplate, to have some other striking headlines here. We have Boko Haram activities now restricted, says Buratai. It's on page 2. Then, son sells hunchback mother to ritual killers for 7 million in Ondo State. That's on page 7. Man sets self ablaze in Ebonyi, says he is tired of hardship. It's on page 4 of the Tribune. And now the lead headline this morning on the Nigerian Tribune, Saraki to Tinubu, leave me out of your schemes towards 2023. We have 3 writers to that story. Warns him against interference in 9th national leadership process. It says accusing him of budget delay, padding is their concocted narrative. 8 Senate surpasses all records, passes 282 bills he outs, is on page 3. And that's where you get the details of that story. And now, just beside the photograph on the Nigerian Tribune this morning, we have 11 killed in Gombe Easter procession car crash. It's on page 2. Now, Northeast crisis. Buhari not sleeping on duty, says the presidency, blames community leaders for continued violence. You can get that story also on page 4. That will be it for Nigerian Tribune.
Yeah, I have the Daily Trust newspaper here, and below the masthead, we have 10 killed in Gombe during Easter procession. That's on page 8. Presidency, Buhari not sleeping on duty as Commander-in-Chief. That's on page 4. OPEC upbeat Dangote refinery will aid stability. That's on page 17. And then our headlines is as follows. Redundancy as Police Service Commission reverses conversion of 1,060 DSPs, ASPs with a rider, 3 AIGs, 427 officers retire next week. And the picture message there is, it says, on a sad note, some vehicles burnt by protesters who also touched the constituency office of the Deputy Speaker of Ogun State House of Assembly in Ogun State on Sunday evening. And at the bottom plate of the Daily Trust newspaper, we have Nigeria Air Force takes delivery of 2 attack helicopters. That's on page 4. And Saraki to Tinubu, stop smear campaign, dwell on facts. That's on page 13. And UTME, over 100 exam cheats arrested. That's why JAMB is on page 7.
Let's begin by this moment. Because
let's start from the human interest background. 9 members of the Boys Brigade in Gombe were killed during an Easter procession. The sad incident happened when a vehicle driven by a civil defense officer rammed into their convoy procession from the back. 8 of them were killed and 30 were injured. Meanwhile, the Boys Brigade, out of anger, run after the driver and his other occupant, which they said was a policeman, and also lynched them. This brings the total persons killed there to 11. Meanwhile, the Deputy Governor of Gombe State had visited the scene, and the Commissioner of Police also have supported to restore calm. Meanwhile, the Chairman of Christian Association of Nigeria in Gombe, Reverend Ibrahim Joda, has lamented the incident and appealed for calm. He asks all to pray for the healing of the injured and also the repose of the dead. In another incident, this one also in Adamawa, Numan, and is also related. In the procession by Christian faithfuls, they were going to a hilltop which they describe as Galilee. A bus ran into the procession and 17 persons were injured. Thanks to Providence, nobody was killed in that incident. Across again...
Did you get any other information regarding the incident in Gombe? Was it a deliberate action or as a result of malfunctioning of the car? Do you have any information on that?
There are 2 perspectives to it. The earlier perspective from the Boys Brigade perspective was that the driver and his occupant, a lady occupant, were coming earlier on and they had disagreement. And therefore, the man went back after dropping his female occupant. He was coming by with another male occupant from behind, and then he rammed into them. So that angered them because there was an earlier altercation between them, for them assuming that it was deliberate. But the police said it was as a result of dangerous driving or some other malfunctioning of the car or something. But no sane person would deliberately run into a procession. But unfortunately, they were lynched. And also across in Benue State, curfew has been imposed in Katsina. This happened yesterday when the Deputy Governor had no choice at midday to declare 24 hours curfew. This as a result of militia by the Nigbo and CIA in villages that were clashing. 5 persons have been killed, and gunmen carted away 28 cattle. The acting governor says that order will be restored, and he has warned anybody who foments trouble will be apprehended. The commander, while stroke operation, Major General Adeyemi Yekini, says that troops are already on ground to restore order.
Yeah. But we just can't stop reading news of violence and organized crime, if you like, because the situation in Katsina was a deliberate action, by a group of people, or maybe they're called activities and what have you.
Militia groups, yes.
Militia groups. It is deliberate. We're getting too much of this by the day.
You recall that just 2 weeks ago, we had militia groups from part of Benue and part of Takum clashes. It started first with a conflict over market, yam market, and gradually now we have Juku militia and Tiv militia engaging one another, burning down the houses. So the militia issues there have been long existent between that axis, and sometimes it gets mixed up with herders and farmers crisis. Even in this one, there is a rustling of about 28 cattle. So don't be surprised if tomorrow the Fulani whose cattle have been rustled also stand up and then you now have some consequence of reprisal. So something must be done to stem all this.
Exactly. When the presidency blames communities and community leaders, some Nigerians take it with a bit of salt. But the reality of it is that you cannot form a militia group without support. They can't exist just like that. There has to be some foundation, that brought them into being, and that is the issue that Nigeria should address at this moment, which is getting out of hand.
Yes, in any situation like that, usually we have shadow backers who make a lot of money.
Militia usually are of two kinds. Those who feel their society is threatened, and the people who gather themselves to try to help protect their own society. And in such instances, the law requires that they work with the police and they will have operational order how they should go about this. But the other ones are what they call political vanguards that usually are organized by political parties and politicians. And they come into space, particularly during the area of politics. So when politics is over, all these persons who are armed and militarized tend to pick on one another as a fallout of some of the crises and interests.
Let's move on now. I have the Nigerian Pilot newspaper, and just below the masthead, we have outrage as gunmen kidnap 3 women, teenager in Kaduna. You find that on page 6. It's a tragedy, 11 youths in procession killed by car. We read that earlier in our previous newspapers. And the headline says we transmitted results to INEC server. That's on page 8 with 4 riders. Presiding officers tell Presidential Election Tribunal. Says INEC trained them on how to transmit results to its server. Presidential election results were not transmitted electronically, INEC insists, as DSS denies arrest of INEC's ICT staff over disclosure of server ID card. And then we have the picture message there, fun seekers during Easter Monday celebration in Nkeja Park in Lagos. And just below the picture message, we have the 9th Assembly. APC will be punished again if Saraki wins. If Saraki wins, that's on page 5. And at the bottom plate of the Nigerian Pilot, federal government to rehabilitate IDPs, 64 Bakassi returnees. You find that on page 6. Minimum wage, FG cannot downsize number of workers. That's from TUC, Trade Union Congress, on page 6. Insecurity, autumn imposes curfew on Katsina Ala. You find that on page 10. 55th anniversary, Nigeria Air Force to showcase air power capability. They find that on page 11. And PDP carpets APC over attempt to influence Niger Guba Election Tribunal. You find that on page 10. And FARC disposes 1.9 trillion to 3 stairs of government in first quarter. That's from the NBC. You find that on page 9. Tayo.
Let me refer to the story that Kirian read earlier on related to Joint Admission and Matriculation Board. JAM says that it is proving the credentials of all applicants between the year 2009 and 2019. That is a period of 10 years. And the persons who may have cheated or passed the UTME during that period first got admission into the university, they may have graduated and served the National Youth Service Corps and will be arrested if their certificates will be withdrawn if it is found out that they had cheated during the examination. A head of the media is saying that they now have a software which they are going to use, and the board has acquired this software which will be able to identify fake biometric data. In the biodata verification, if even you are now working and it is discovered sometime that you wrote the exam, someone else wrote the exam for you, you will be held accountable for it. And how is it done? My name is Bayo. I will register for the exam, but use your name. On that day, I will go because the verification will allow me entry. Then I'll write the exam on your behalf. JAM has found out that, and they are going to trace back to 2009. So the question is, who is a thief? Is it the one who stole and was caught? Or the one that is yet to be caught?
Okay, all right, so let's go to the editorials for this morning, and it's coming from Punch newspaper. It's captioned, "Making the ballot less of a model." With the power to register political parties on account of their abysmal performance, the Independent National Electoral Commission is under pressure to wield it now that the 2019 elections are over. There are 91 registered political parties, and only 72 of them participated in the last general election. Let's bring him by.
Well, the editorial is concerned about the ballot paper during the last election. You have about 91 political parties, and it was very long. I remember Kingsley once described it on this program here as like a wrapper, very difficult to handle.
tie.
And you can also strictly deduce that the high level of ballot papers that were voided is as a result of the size of the paper, which became very cumbersome for many who were not literate enough to be able to follow the rollover process of handling the ballot before you cast the vote. What the editorial is now saying is that INEC must wield its powers provided for it under section 225, and is saying that if it fails to do that, then it will have to live up with that big challenge. Presently, you recall that there are 91 political parties, and soon after election, INEC indicated that there were several hundreds of applications seeking to be registered political parties. So the editorial is saying INEC must invoke that clause that allows it to deregister political party, namely given the criteria that if you didn't win 25% of votes in the presidential election, and if you didn't win one local government in a state government election, and you didn't win one seat in either a state house of assembly or national assembly, then your party qualifies to be deregistered.
But what is disturbing about this issue of registration of political parties is that come 2023, more political parties will come for registration. And it has become a kind of business circle, you know, during electoral election period. You know, when people will come together as friends and they begin to call themselves a name, and before you know it, they will apply to INEC for registration. That has happened in the past. It has continued to happen because, of course, the increase, you know, in this past election is an indication that if INEC does not will its power to stop it, then it will continue.
I think there will be more political parties by 2023.
Exactly.
The longer ballot
because there is freedom of association. And if you recall, in the past, INEC made attempt to deregister some political parties, and they went to court, and the court said they didn't have that power. But following the amendment that you now have, there is now criteria that is set for which INEC can use as a measuring standard for a party to remain on the political scene or to be deregistered. However, in other parts of the world, there are criteria for political parties surviving.
Exactly.
If you don't meet it, then you have to be deregistered.
All right, Bayo, at this point, we'd like to thank you for your analysis, and we hope to see you again tomorrow.
Thank you.
All right, this is Good Morning Nigeria and the network service of the NTA. Well, let's take a short break now. When we come back, of course, we told you we have 3 legs to conversations this morning. We'll start with the first one after the break.
Apathy is a short, sharp pain that people experience when they have something hot or cold, and it's that little jolt that you feel is the hot or the cold getting to the nerve of the tooth, causing that discomfort. If the sensitivity is left alone, it may get worse. Dentists recommend Sensodyne. It's able to get inside the tooth and calm the nerve of the tooth down. It has years of research behind it. It works.
Relieve tooth sensitivity with Sensodyne Daily Care 40 milligrams for just 350 naira only.
A new edition of TV Guide is out with special focus on the role of the media in election coverage. Exclusive on the National Broadcasting Commission, its mandate as the sole regulator of Nigerian media. Dr. Toma Daba then and Ishak Modibo Kawu now. This edition also features the king of stand-up comedy in Nigeria, Ali Baba. NTA standards to be ready for election transmission after decades of abandonment. Find out from the DG transactional elections in our political space, an evil wind that blows no good. DG, National Orientation Agency calls TV Guide, your indispensable companion, x-rays the impact of social media on electioneering process as electorates present their expectations from incoming government. Meet some TV professionals behind the screen and other inspiring stories in sports, entertainment, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Team huddle.
But we lost.
Don't be tired, guys. This isn't a loss. It's a practice for winning.
Nothing makes a mother prouder than seeing her child growing up. But I know as he learns to lead, he'll face even more dirt, germs, and risk of illness.
That's why in changing seasons, you need strong Dettol protection. Because Dettol protects from up to 100 illness-causing germs.
Growing up needs Dettol protection.
Conversation this morning. Here is Aisha Obaali with a backgrounder.
The suspension of Chief Justice Walter Onnoghen followed a petition against the Chief Judge submitted by the Executive Secretary of the Anti-Corruption and Research-Based Data Initiative. The case of the former Chief Justice at the Code of Conduct Tribunal generated a lot of controversy as many Nigerians were divided for and against trying the Chief Justice. It may be recalled that the Code of Conduct Bureau filed a 6-count charge against the Chief Justice before the Code of Conduct Tribunal in connection with false declaration of asset upon resumption of office as provided in Section 15, subsection 1 of the Code of Conduct Bureau and Tribunal Act C-15. After 4 months of trial, the Code of Conduct Tribunal found the suspended Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Walter Onnoghen, guilty of all the seized charges of false asset declaration. The final judgment last week ruled that he vacates office as the Chief Justice of Nigeria, forfeit all the monies in the undeclared account to the federal government, as well as a ban from public office for the next 10 years. Government has also described the judgment of the Chief Justice as another milestone achieved in the fight against corruption, and this is expected to send a clear message that the war against corruption will spare no one. The judgment, according to observers, will also reawaken the consciousness of people, especially in their conduct as public office holders. How has the conviction of Justice Onnoghen been received by relevant stakeholders? Guest on Good Morning Nigeria will be discussing the implications shortly.
Thank you, Aisha. We appreciate that report. And seated with us this morning in the studio to discuss the implications of former Chief Justice of the Federation, Walter Onnoghen's judgment, is Barrister Aliyu Lemu. He's a legal practitioner. Good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
And also in the studio is Ibrahim Modibo, a public affairs analyst and, of course, a regular in some of NTA's current affairs programs. You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, Jimmy.
I will begin with you. You know, the conviction has raised a lot of uproar confusion. And since 1975, I think, when the Chief Justice was removed from office, it has not happened again. And people feel as if this government is moving forward. So how has the reactions been since the conduct of the tribunal sort of delivered the verdict last year? What is happening? What is going on in the mind of Nigerians right now?
Thank you very much, Madam. To be honest with you, I think this landmark judgment is a victory for democracy. Victory for rule of law, victory for anti-corruption fight, which the Buhari administration is well known for. I must commend the judiciary and also commend the government for this wonderful thought of bringing to justice people that were generally considered as untouchables. Never in the history of modern democracy have we seen a chief judge, not even of a state to me, but of a federation, being brought to justice because of issues pertaining to corruption. Because as far as I'm concerned, the issue of not declaring assets, the issue of mass amassment of wealth, which I think it looks like a primitive accumulation of wealth by an individual in government, I think it's something that we condemned. So I think the Chief Justice has lost the moral fiber to key into the specifics of the Buhari administration. To me, as far as I'm concerned, based on this judgment, I think the government should be commended for doing a very wonderful, diligent prosecution and also seeing to the fact that justice prevails. You see, there is no, in fighting corruption and economic brigandage, you don't even need rocket science in other climes. But if you look at Nigeria, you find out that you need to get all the arsenals you can get, bazooka, atomic bomb and everything to fight corruption. Because it seems as if it has been entrenched into the roots and fibers of this country. Unfortunately, for me, I came from a family of a judge and also an immediate elder brother who is also a lawyer. But during our time, when my father was a judge, we've seen decency. Honestly, when my father died, we only had one house, an old rickety Peugeot 404, and a Honda, motorcycle. So, you see, there was nothing, no flamboyance. He had no extracurricular activities where politicians would come in and just do all this and that. There was nothing. We saw lawyers that were very decent. By then, if they call you a lawyer, if you know the way you walk, especially when you think of lawyers in the 70s and 80s,
exactly.
The way they walk, their comportment, they earn a lot of respect from the people. You don't even need to be told that this is a lawyer. By the way you see him, well respected. But today, looking at this judgment today, the judges should know that they should not toe the line of politicians. It's a very, very dangerous trend. If you look at when Justice Onnoghen was going in for this trial, so many politicians gathered, they said, those go, we are going to be behind you. We had almost over 100 lawyers. We had over about 50 or 60 sons. But at the end of the day, when the judgment was being passed, how many sons did you see on the table? How many lawyers did you see? They all left, run away and left him. And he ended carrying up the can. So that is to tell you that do not be hailed by all these flamboyant, all these people that are trying to look at the issues based on pecs and this that they will get at the end of the day. It's all hypocrisy.
All right. Thank you for that initial comment. As to what you raised, whether corruption has been entrenched in the fabrics of our society, the answer is a big yes, because the trend has been there. Now, let's turn to Ali Liam. What is your own line of thought with respect to the judgment handed down by CCT against the Onnoghen last week?
Well, this is the first in the history of Nigeria. We all concede that corruption is a problem in Nigeria. But when the common man is put on trial, you don't see the public outrage. But when a big man is involved, you see people crying from all sorts of nooks and crannies of the country. For us to move forward, we must all be equal before the law.
the same law that the poor man is subjected to, the rich man should also be subjected to that same law. This has set a precedent. It has never happened in the history of this country. Just like Mr. Modibo said that even a chief judge of a state should be convicted. This will lead to an increase in confidence, public confidence in the judicial arm of government. If the big man can be subjected to the same law that the poor man is subjected to, then the public confidence in the judiciary will increase. So I believe this is a development in our jurisprudence, and going forward, not only judges, members of the public will now become awakened that yes, if I break the law, then I must feel the full wrath of the law, and that's when we'll have development in our system.
Initially, when the president appointed him as the Chief Justice of Nigeria, most people said he was corrupt. But the president went ahead to nominate him. I do not understand the uproar and the outrage on the conviction now. If the president agreed to nominate him, then there must have been something he has done wrong that the president feels he should leave office. Why are people saying it's unconstitutional?
Well, you see, that's why I said the judiciary remains the last hope of not only the common man, for everybody in this country. When people were saying he was corrupt, he was corrupt. And at first, the president hesitated to appoint him. There were cries from sections of the country that, oh, he doesn't want to appoint him because he is from a different part of the country from the president. But the beauty of democracy and the beauty of our judicial system is that everybody must have his day in court. Yes. If it is alleged that you have committed an offense, then it is not the public that will pass the guilty verdict on you. That duty is the duty of the court. The government has the opportunity of presenting its evidence, while the defendant also has the opportunity of presenting its evidence. At the end of the day, it is the court that remains the only competent authority to say somebody is guilty, and that is what rightly played out in this matter. All right, thank you. Let's return to Modibo once again. Let's get to the technical aspect of this conviction. Mr. Okon Efud, SAN, who led the defense council for Onnoghen, did say that the decision of the CCT is unconstitutional, and of course that they deny the ex-CJN the right to fair hearing. They also cited the fact that, yes, you were talking about 5 accounts that were undeclared, but the court didn't allow justice to prevail with respect to the fact that you have not traced the sources of such funds as to criminalize, the man who owns the accounts. Apart from not declaring them, that's a different matter altogether. What's your take on that?
Well, as far as I'm concerned, I've been trailing this matter right from day one. I've been watching television. Serially, Justice Onnoghen has been given fair hearing to come to the court, present his own case, while the prosecution also had their own day. Assuming without necessarily conceding to the fact that this is an issue that cropped up where the Chief Justice of the Federation is at the firing line, we must concede to the fact that nobody is above the law. I must commend President Muhammadu Buhari, honestly and sincerely, for this fight against corruption. Because if you could recall, when he came in, he had a kind of tripodial structure of what he intends to do. Tame insecurity, fight corruption, and also look at how the economy will improve, while also, along the same line, opening the political space for mass participation and entrenchment of rule of law. Now, having said this, I must commend the president for sticking to the issue of fight against corruption. That is why today, wherever he goes in the Committee of Nations in the world, the president is being hailed for being a champion or a king kong of anti-corruption in sub-Saharan Africa, or even among the Committee of Nations in the world. The banner of Nigeria is always raised as one nation that has a president who is committed, a committed Democrat, and also one that is known for fighting against corruption. Now, having said this, honestly and sincerely, I want to believe that any nation, no nation can be built on scandalous corruption and deceptive impunity. No nation. Therefore, Nigeria is not an exception. I strongly believe that the fight against corruption should be a focal point, because for long, We've had a government or a country that had leaders that lacked honest, transparent, and selfless approach to governance. While we see deceptive impunity and monumental looting of the treasury becoming the centerpiece of governance. Therefore, to stop all this, we must key into the specifics of the Buhari agenda. The Buhari agenda presupposes that this government is one that does not tolerate corruption from whatever angle or from whichever person. Therefore, I wanted to go a step further. That for the last government that spent about $16 billion on electricity, the president must bring them to justice, whosoever is concerned. If this fight of corruption should be seen to be, gaining weight, we must look at what has happened about last week ago. The former president of Peru, he was about to be arrested, but because he felt that his honor, his credibility has been at stake for being arrested as former president, he just told them, excuse me, please let me just go in and come. He left the police before you could say Jack Robinson. He went and shot himself in. But that is not to say that we are condoning committing suicide. But whoever is involved in this kind of attitude or involved in corruption must be brought to justice.
Okay, Modibo, let's pause you there. Sorry, Jimmy. Let's get the view of a barrister here with us, because this is the technical aspect of this conversation. You know, when a judgment is passed, yes, the defense counsel has the responsibility to defend his client. Now, someone says, look, this is unconstitutional. Already, the case has been established at the appeal court. Now, does Okon Efut, does he have a chance, at the appeal court, considering all he alluded to respect to the judgment by the CCT?
Well, the judgment of the Code of Conduct Tribunal, as it still stands, is valid until set aside by a competent court, in this case, the Court of Appeal. From the evidence presented before the Code of Conduct Tribunal, the Code of Conduct Tribunal was able to establish that beyond reasonable doubt, and as required by the law, the defendant, in this case the Chief Justice of Nigeria, has contravened the law and is guilty as charged before the tribunal. Now, it doesn't end at the Code of Conduct level. The defendant has the opportunity of going ahead to the Court of Appeal to challenge this decision, not the evidence, the decision of the Code of Conduct Tribunal. And then the Court of Appeal is being called upon to say, okay, based on this evidence and the law as it is in Nigeria, was the Code of Conduct Tribunal right in determining the guilt of the accused based on the evidence presented before it? So until the Court of Appeal gives that judgment, the judgment of the Code of Conduct Tribunal still stands and is the law for the time being in Nigeria, that the former Chief Justice of Nigeria is guilty as charged.
Was there any error in the process that led to the judgment?
That is for the Court of Appeal to determine. Because it is sub judice at the Court of Appeal, I as a lawyer cannot determine that.
And the Code of Conduct Tribunal has sort of reversed itself on jurisdiction. One thing that beats me is, how can somebody forget that he has $5 million in accounts? It's a lot of money. Actually, it's a lot of money. So what message does this send to people yet to declare their assets as we go into a new government now?
You see, there's this popular saying, yes, that ignorance of the law is not an excuse before the law.
Well, you see,
the same way.
Yes.
Forgetfulness is not an excuse before the law.
Yes.
And for somebody who occupies such an office, with all due respect, is the biggest office in the land, is the biggest office in the judicial arm of government. Yes. And this is the same person who passed verdicts on the common man every day. It has never been accepted as an excuse from the common man that he has forgotten or he is ignorant of the law. I think if it cannot, what is good for the goose, also good for the gander.
Yes.
If it cannot be accepted from the common man, it shouldn't be as accepted from whoever it is, how highsoever in this country.
Yeah.
Well, but another perspective to what you've just said, is the fact that it is said that when one makes a mistake in filling the forms at the CCB.
Yes.
But it is the responsibility of the CCB to call for your attention, and then of course you can get that corrected. We don't know what happened in this particular episode, but that's another perspective to the conversation, which of course was raised
by... the CCB wouldn't have known he has $5 million in his account.
Exactly.
So how can they correct it?
No, not them correct it, but when they call his attention, if he said, yes, I do, and correct it, that goes on. Anyway, that's a discussion for another day. Let me turn to Modibo once again. The tribunal ordered as punishment the removal of Onnoghen as the CGN. That's number one, barred him from taking public office for 10 years, and also for future of the funds in the 5 accounts that were undeclared. Is it not too harsh a punishment?
You see, there's no punishment that is too harsh. What happens if it were to attract death sentence? What happens? Like in China, if you have 5 million naira, you've stolen 5 million naira in naira, not even in dollars. You are supposed to be executed. So if you are to be, Onnoghen were to be in China by today with this discovery, if the judgment stands at the Court of Appeal or wherever it ends, it will attract death sentence. So is it better to die or to just lose some funds and also lose all this? Let's pray that he lives the next 10 years. After that 10 years, he might be made an ambassador, because we have an ambassador now that is in America that is almost about 80. So by the time Onnoghen will read that, he will be able to get that. But let us look at it. The way it is, I strongly believe that this is a call to order. It is a call to Nigerians, not only the judiciary, but all Nigerians, to toe in line against corruption. We must look at these issues from a wider perspective. Let us not narrow it through the prism of either sectionalism or the feeling of, look, this is my own. Corruption must be fought in all ramifications. And also, I strongly believe that if we are to achieve the set goals and objectives of the present administration, then nobody is above the law. And therefore, the country must be governed by order, rule of law. Because for long, the country has been buckled under the ravenous and greedy political class and also the high-ranking government officials that have looted the treasuries of this country, that have made the common man suffer, that today the gap between the rich and the poor is so wide and so monumental. We need to bring this country to sanity. The major problem confronting Nigeria, believe me, today, first and foremost is corruption. Once you remove corruption, every other thing will fall into line. But with this development, I think this judgment might not be too harsh, because I am sure that the chairman of Court of Conduct Tribunal did not bring out all these punishments based on sentiments of this. It is in the books. Lawyers are always guided by the books. They are the most learned. They will tell you that, look, we are educated, but they are the learned. And because they have the books and they have order, everything is set in order. So whoever is there, if they say you're going to lose 10 years, fine. If you're going to lose all your money, fine. If you're going to lose, it is set. So it is not only for the poor man, but the Chief Justice of Nigeria, as high-ranking or any other person. That is why today I am saying, I'm appealing to Mr. President, that all those that have looted this country must be brought to book. Let us set a standard. This should not end with Onnoghen alone. The electricity probe must come on board. The issue of this oil something during the what is the barrister, the one that Malabu. The Malabu oil deal should also be investigated thoroughly.
And Halliburton.
So all these people, no matter whose ox is gone, whoever is involved, please let this government make an example. If we don't make an example, the issue of corruption is going to be a kind of a windstorm that will blow the whole country of no good.
So from what every indication now, you are saying the trial of Chief Justice of Nigeria has shown that integrity, accountability and transparency must be restored in all sectors, especially the judiciary. Where do we start from? Where do we begin?
Honestly, if I were to be Justice Onnoghen right from the day one, if I knew I have forgotten, let's assume, without necessarily conceding to his argument that he forgot an account of $5 million. Honestly, me, if I have $5 million in my account today, I will not even sleep very well. I'll be thinking about the money.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. But to say you have a $5 million in an account and you forgot about that. You have some so amount of money that are in your account, you forgot it. You see, the problem is, you see, honestly, the Nigerian lawyers, the bar and the bench, they have raised themselves above the bar and they have gone into this thing, a kind of I don't know how to describe it, but I see them as a kind of a capitalism, a kind of a cabal of capitalism.
Yes.
Because they have a lot of resources that no any other profession in Nigeria can match them. No, I dare say.
Ibrahim, thank you indeed. And you know, we have a barrister here, a lawyer here, who can also give us another perspective to that. You know, well, lawyers understand the loopholes in the Nigerian law system or legal system, and there are loopholes that needed to be, touched a little. And these lawyers leverage on those loopholes and get injunctions, frivolous injunctions that elongate cases for upwards of 10-15 years. And there are many Nigerians, especially ex-governors in the Obasanjo administration, who still have cases, pending in different courts. And the delay has been blamed greatly on the activities of the legal practitioners in this country. Recall that about a few weeks ago, when the acting Chief Justice Tanko Mohammed, inaugurated the tribunals, that will take care of cases arising from the election, warned the lawyers or judges sternly on the fact that, look, the nation is looking upon you to do justice to whatever case that comes around you that has anything to do with elections. Now, in that regard, what should you expect, or what should we expect from lawyers? Now that everybody's talking about, let us, have a clean legal process in Nigeria. Let us try and see. Onnoghen has been pinned down. Many more may come, and all of that. So, what can your profession, or your colleagues do to ensure that Nigeria gets out of this situation of cases unending?
Thank you very much. You see, our society is not a perfect society. Our laws are man-made, so they can't be perfect. Lawyers have different roles. The role of the prosecution lawyer is to bring out all the evidence they have against anybody that is charged an offense. Whereas the duty of a defense lawyer is different. The duty of the defense lawyer is one, to reduce or attack the quality of evidence that is being presented before the tribunal or before the court, and to take advantage of those loopholes to defend his client. And it will be highly unfair to attack the defense lawyer for doing his duty, which is to defend his client. He's only in court to defend his client and not to defend the society. But I must say this. You see, the fight against corruption we are all talking about is supposed to be a collective effort, not that of the executive alone. The judiciary, the legislature, and the executive must work hand in hand. We've all identified that there are loopholes in these laws. It is the duty of the legislature to amend this law, to close these loopholes. But it is unfortunate, the legislature most of the times are concerned about their own welfare. If we have a situation where there is harmony, there is accord between the legislature, the judiciary, and the executive, and the fight against corruption is sustained, the loopholes will be closed. The defense lawyers will have little or nothing to defend their clients with. Let me give you an example in America. Once the evidence against your client is overwhelming, you don't go to trial. You go for plea bargain. You call the prosecution and say, please, we have seen your evidence. Let us agree. Let us agree. Reduce the charges. Or my client is going to plead guilty to some of these charges. And then at the end of the day, there will be no need to waste time or waste resources through a long and lengthy trial. So to drive the point home, the lawyers are only performing their duties. The prosecution lawyer is performing his duty by bringing the evidence and asking the court, based on this evidence, to find this person guilty Whereas the defense lawyer is saying, okay, based on the lacunas in the law, based on the requirement of the law, this evidence is not enough. And then the judge has his own duty to say, okay, based on what the prosecution lawyer is telling me, based on the defense, what the defense lawyer is telling me, I must perform my role as a judge. Justice is a three-way system. Justice for the accused, justice for the society, and justice for the victim of a crime. With this in mind, the judge is now able to say, okay, based on everything that has said to me, I will use the three parameters and ensure that justice is done in the case. And once the judge pronounces a sentence, whether discharge, acquittal, or conviction, then he has performed his role. He is not perfect. So whatever mistakes there are in his decision is left for the Court of Appeal and subsequently the Supreme Court of Nigeria to pronounce on those.
So cases can last as long as possible with all these loopholes you mentioned. So your professional colleagues are not interested in society and interested in defending their client and society. I mean, it's because that is what Modibo, he was trying to raise a short while ago. That it should be there be societal cleansing when it comes to behaviors, when it comes to you performing your duty, whatever profession that it is. Yes. Even the medical profession, people in many professions, especially even engineers, because we see we have had collapse buildings and what have you. So it is pervasive, and it doesn't have to just be the client alone. Society is also involved.
And also, Karen, Barrister has made a very valid, very fundamental point, but then he forgot the fourth estate of the realm in fighting corruption. You cannot do away with the media. Yeah. It is very, very vital and fundamental. That's why it is the fourth estate. The executive, judiciary, legislature, and then the fourth estate, which is the media. Because the media helps in trying to inform, educate, and also set agenda for the public, especially when it comes to any government policy, including corruption. Because the media is very fundamental and very vital. So, Barrister, please kindly include us.
Okay, that's correct. Okay, now let's quickly take our tweets. Nigerians are talking. It's a very interesting topic today. We'll start with Igba Tigbe Zekeri. He tweets that Onnoghen's conviction should be a clear example for judges who trade their professional integrity to luxury. We need a sanitized judicial system.
Now, Chris Simeon, let's always follow normal procedures in everything we are doing, especially things concerning national interests. The removal of Onnoghen as CJN by CCT and President is unconstitutional. It's ultra-virus. NJC is supposed to handle first.
And Ortega tweets, his conviction is a complete conspiracy theory.
All right, we have from Musa Mohammed Hadejia. Samuel Walter Onnoghen knew the Nigerian constitution very well, as he is a lawyer by profession and holds the position of CJN, but break the law of the country by denying to declare the right assets in writing. He opposes to CCB. That is a great lesson to the judicial sector.
And Ogbemi Zah tweets, Onnoghen's conviction is a warning to other similar judges who sit on their benches to sell justice. It may not be today or now, but someday they will also meet their Waterloo. However, the fight must be extended across the political divides. There should be no sacred cow.
All right, I also have Mike Anyakwa here. The implications of Justice Onnoghen's conviction is that no one is above the law, and besides, the war against corruption by the present administration is on course. We demand speedy trials of other corrupt cases, irrespective of political affiliations of those involved, who must fight corruption.
Festus Akimboyewa tweets, the conviction of former CGN Onnoghen shows the fight against corruption in our country is alive. Nigeria has no greater challenge than fighting corruption that is eroding our democracy and preventing economic development. Those involved in high-level corruption must face the law. However, in fighting corruption in our judiciary, care must be taken to preserve the institution and ensure it maintains its equitability.
All right, from Francis Jethro, great job, NTA. For me, no implication so far, but a warning to those judges engaged in corruption. This is a big victory to the fight against corruption for the federal government. They also need to bring some of the top-ranking officials engaged in corruption too. So many out there.
Daily Jack Solomon tweets, the implication is this: we need to strengthen the institutional mechanism for enhancing judicial integrity, fostering greater access to the courts, and improvement in the quality of justice delivered in Nigeria are moves in the right direction. There is no better time than now to strive for a healthy, stable, economically buoyant, and corruption-free Nigeria. The rule of law must always prevail, regardless of individual status, class, ranking, or profile. There should be no more sacred cow when it comes to punishing offenders of public trust and treasury.
And finally, from Shaibu Alkali, there is no implications on Onnoghen's conviction, except lessons behind to judiciary and other public office holders. Also, conviction of former Chief Justice of Nigeria shows that nobody is above the law, and make ordinary Nigerians consider judiciary as last hope of common man. And that's the last one we have this moment. Let's return to Aliyu Lem. Somebody raised the issue of NJC. How would you consider the role of NJC in this Onnoghen saga?
Well, there is a recent judgment of the Court of Appeal in the case of Ngajinwa against the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And by that case, the Court of Appeal held that before a judicial officer can be charged for a crime, then he must first be subjected to the disciplinary jurisdiction of the NJC. But that is a different case altogether. What Justice Onnoghen was charged with is not a crime. He is charged for the breach of code of conduct for judicial officer. This is a constitutional provision. So the case of Ngajinwa against FRN that says you cannot charge him for a crime, the CJN was not charged before a crime. Because he was charged with a breach of that code of conduct, the NJC has no jurisdiction for the breach of code of conduct. That has been vested exclusively by the Constitution of Nigeria, the 1999 Constitution specifically, vests only the Code of Conduct Tribunal with the powers to investigate and charge for the breach of that conduct. And even the Supreme Court has affirmed that power. In fact, ironically, it is the Chief Justice of Nigeria himself, in delivering judgment in one of the cases that came before him, that said, as far as the breach of code of conduct for public and judicial officers is concerned, it is only the CCT.
I think that was in 2013.
2013, yes. It is only the CCT. So it's ironical that the same person that gave this judgment was made to face
and what worries me, about this, with respect to these lawyers being learned, is the fact that what you have just said, many senior advocates of Nigeria argued against this. At the beginning, they argued profusely too against that. Many notable sons argued against this. But well, it boils down on a law interpretation by the lawyers.
Yes. So, do you think he has basis for appeal, and how do you see that? How is that going to play out?
Well, as a lawyer, by our code of conduct, we are not allowed to comment on cases that are sub judice. And because this is before the Court of Appeal, it actually be highly improper to make a pronouncement on that. So we'll leave that. As a lawyer, I will leave that. But people like Mr. Modibo can comment on that.
Yes, Mr. Modibo. Coming to you, Mr. Modibo, we heard that some delegation from the South have planned to meet the president to accept the resignation of Onnoghen, which everybody begged him earlier to resign, which he didn't. And now they want to ask the president to accept resignation. Is that going to be good for...
You see, Nigeria is a very interesting country. And my heart bleeds whenever there's a problem that involves my people. My people will come out to defend me.
Yes.
You see, it is very dangerous. Honestly, if we don't take decisive action, no matter whose ox is God, if today the leaders of the Southeast will come up to make the president truncate his oath of office by being fair to everybody and also by adhering to the rule of law, it is the greatest traversal of justice. It is sad. So many people in this country today, when they steal, I have seen during this democracy, so many governors, they will go and loot the treasuries of their people. They will go and build castles in America and almost most of these cities of Western Europe.
And Dubai.
And Dubai. That's the heaven of corruption, the heaven of all this people that steal our money. So when they amass all this wealth, once they are caught, there are people who say, there are governors that I know, they say, after all, he stole our money. So why are you prosecuting him? Is it not our money? So how, for God's sake, can we continue as a country like this? There must be example. I strongly believe that if we want to set standards and if we want to make this corruption fight a fight that knows no bounds, a fight that is not only for the common man or against the common man, then I strongly believe that the president has the latitude to execute all the nuances or all the aspects of this judgment to the latter. Because I strongly believe standards must be set. So that tomorrow, if they go and catch another person from one village, people will not start complaining, or their chiefs will not start coming in, trooping in to the Aso Rock to come and start pleading with the president. Because once you do that, it is not being fair. If a common man has stolen a goat now, will his chiefs from his village come to the president and appeal for him for this thing? They will not. But if it is a big man that has stolen people's money, you know that, look, when you are coming into the office, or when you're coming into office, you had nothing. You are just like a church rat. Suddenly, dramatically, you've changed from being that pauper to somebody that's very wealthy and so influential through the looting process of governance. What right do your people have, the chiefs, to come and start pleading on your behalf? Whoever, well, to me, the president has the last on his table. The box tops on his table. If he wants this corruption to be respected, and if he wants people to fear that this is a government that is bent on fighting corruption to the letter, he should take decisive action. Otherwise, I don't believe that any pleading, if I were to be Mr. President, or if I were to be his advisor, I would tell him, Mr. President, do the needful. Do the needful. Whatever you think is right, do the right thing.
All right.
But anything short of that is criminal.
Okay. All right, thank you very much. Well, from what we've known, we tend to play up what divide us, and we play down, things that should unite us. I was just reading a passage written by Onnoghen of Ife, where he was tracing the history of Yoruba, saying that there is a connection, a blood connection between the Yorubas and the Igbos. And one wonders, okay, there are communities in Yoruba land where you have Ijebu Igbo, this Igbo, and these things, they all have history. And so at this point, we would like to thank our guests for being part of the first segment of our show this morning. Let me first of all appreciate Barrister Aliu Lemu, a legal practitioner. Thank you for your thoughts.
Thank you very much
on the show today. And of course, Ibrahim Modibo, a public affairs analyst. We hope to have you some other time, when we talk about the burning national issues such as this one. Thank you indeed. We appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
All right. You're still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Next for us now is going to be another leg of a conversation that has to do with the pension administration. Retired officials will be guests. Stay with us.
A new edition of TV Guide is out with special focus on the role of the media in election coverage. Exclusive on the National Broadcasting Commission, its mandate as the sole regulator of Nigerian media. Dr. Toba Daba then and Ishak Modibo Kawu now. This edition also features the king of stand-up comedy in Nigeria, Ali Baba. NTA Standard Studio ready for election transmission after decades of abandonment. Find out from the DG transactional elections in our political space. An evil wind that blows no good. DG National Orientation Agency calls on TV Guide, your indispensable companion, x-rays the impact of social media on electioneering process as electorates present their expectations from incoming government. Meet some TV professionals behind the screen and other inspiring stories in sports, entertainment, and lots more. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
Can I see your particulars, sir?
Officer, my particulars no dey here.
In that case, you'll have to come with me to the police station.
Officer, which levels? Where I for find you something make you take arrange your weekend.
What? Offense number 1, driving without particulars. Offense number 2, trying to bribe an officer of the law.
I won't harass Nigerians or take bribe. Change begins with me.
This message is brought to you by the National Orientation Agency in conjunction with the Federal Ministry of Information and Culture.
And we thank you for staying with us up to this moment on Good Morning Nigeria. Now, to reduce the fraud and corruption in the country's pension administration and independent pension department for the public service of the Federation, the Pension Transitional Arrangement Directorate, PTAD, was established by the federal government.
And here to discuss the strides taken so far by PTAD in ensuring its mandate of payment of pensions to retirees under the defined benefit scheme and validation of monthly paid pensioners in our Lagos studio is Suleiman Sheleng, Director of Parastatal's Pensions Department. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Go ahead.
He is also joined by Kabiru Yusuf, Director of Parastatal's Pensions Department. Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Gentlemen, we thank you for joining us in our Lagos studios. But let's begin this conversation by asking you to explain to Nigerians the objective or aim of the Pension Transitional Arrangement Directorate, and then why was it established in the first place? How different is PTAD from the national pension scheme that the nation has had in the past?
Thank you very much. We are all aware of the history of the myriad of problems in the pension industry that led to the promulgation of the Pension Reform Act of 2004 that established the contributory scheme. But then as at that time, there were people who were already pensioners under the defined benefit scheme. And then there was a 3-year window between 2004 and 2007 that would allow pensioners who had less than 3 years to retire or who are going to attain the age of 60 before June 2007. So those people and the ones that were already pensioners under the defined benefit scheme are the ones that fall under the purview of PTAD. Now, the contributory scheme is the one that it's partly funded by the government, the employer, so to speak, and then the employee. This one is being handled by the National Pension Commission of Nigeria.
So my next question is to Kabiru Yusuf, Deputy Director for Parastatal's Pensions Department. Who and what category of Nigerians do the PTAD serve? How well has the body been functioning and meeting its mandate since establishment? And what are your achievements so far now?
Has brought sanity to the industry. People that are eligible, that had been arbitrarily dropped before, had been brought back into the scheme. And then there are also parastatals who were privatized, and then workers were left in limbo without any pension. While they were paid commuted pension for a period of time, and then afterwards they were abandoned. But under the current administration, they've been brought back into the system. Now, what we have done is, in PTAD, we inherited records that were unreliable. And you know, without data now, you can't plan, you can't implement plans. So we started by building a comprehensive database of pensioners. There are 4 operational departments in PTAD: the Police Pension, the Customs, Immigration and Prisons Pension Department, and the Civil Service Pension Department. We've concluded the verification for the 3 departments. The Parastatal's departments, which takes care of pensioners that retired from federally funded parastatals, by the way, including pensioners of NTA, came on board PITAD in August 2015. And since then, we've been paying them from inherited payrolls that were unreliable. So this is the final segment of the verification exercise. And under this exercise, which commences in Lagos today, pensioners of 270 parastatals will be verified. We're going to be operating from 4 centers in Lagos, in Ikeja, K2, on the island, and in Akoka. And these venues were selected based on the mapping of where our pensioners are resident.
All right, thank you for your comments. But let's get Kaibiru Yusuf on the line, who happens to be the Deputy Director of Parastatal's Pensions Department. Now, Kaibiru Yusuf, how much has PITAD achieved in the elimination of corruption in the process? Of course, you know that corruption was a major reason PITAD was created. What has PITAD been able to do to tackle the menace which exists in the various departments and parastatals of the pension scheme?
Thank you very much. In the first instance, PITAD at inception and under the administration of the current Executive Secretary, Sharon Ikazo, took up responsibility to make a total adoption of the implementation of Government Integrated Financial Management Information System, which establishes the basis for complete electronic payment of pensions without any manual intervention. This significantly reduces the incidence of fraud in pensions that we've been experiencing in the past. PITAD also, along with that, establishes an anti-corruption unit, which ensures that our operations is continuously and regularly monitored to ensure that any incidence of corruption is nipped in the bud. Further to that, because, just like my director has said earlier, because we inherited payrolls that were not essentially reliable, what PITAD has done prior to carrying out verification was to continuously clean up the payroll. What do I mean by this? First of all, we ensure basis for identifying duplicated names on the payroll and suspending or remove them and investigate. Secondly, we also ensure that only one pensioner, at least for now, exists on the payroll with a singular account number. So any incidents of a pensioner appearing on the payroll with 2 account numbers are removed. This is what we have done pending the carrying out of verification. You all will agree with me, it is only a complete verification and biometric capture of pensioners that would eliminate any incidents of pensioners existing across the 4 payrolls of the 4 departments that we mentioned. And secondly, it will also ensure that we can capture these pensioners along with their career details and to be able to accurately now compete their monthly pensions based on relevant statutory and pension statutes, based on their salary structures, and based on the length of service they have. It is only through the verification also that we can reduce the incidence and volume of complaints, because by the time we carry out verification, we would accurately compute the pension, have enough evidence to be able to respond to any questions or clarification that is being sought by the pensioner. So verifications ensures also that incidences of pensioners that have careers cutting across different departments can be consolidated and they can then be paid from one pension pay point. Verification will also help PITAD to be able to achieve its maxim of 1 pensioner equals 1 payroll. And it will also ensure that we can be able to respond to what I would call issues beyond pension, which is to actually be able to now take a lead in providing for the welfare of our pensioners, just beyond paying monthly pension alone. Thank you.
Mr. Kabiru Yusuf, if I can recall correctly, the federal government announced a 33% pension increase for pensioners in July 2010. How has the Pension Transition Arrangement Directorate dealt with the fulfillment of that promise to federal government workers and others in parastatals? Kabiru Yusuf.
Thank you very much. PITAD has, up until this time, successfully made full payment of the 33% pension increment arrears to pensioners of Police Pension Department, pensioners of the Custom, Immigrations and Prisons Department, as well as the pensioners of the Civil Service Pension Department. The only department that is outstanding now for pension, with respect to 33% pension increment is the pensioners of Parastatals Pension Department. Last week, we actually made the final tranche of payment that is owed to pensioners of Nigerian Railway Corporation for their 30 months arrears that we inherited. government, PETAD is working very, very well with government to ensure that the last tranche of the amount that is due to all pensioners of federal government parastatals under the Parastatal Pension Department are paid. We have worked very well with Federal Ministry of Finance and the Budget Office to ensure that adequate sums is provided for in the current budget, and I'm assured that as soon as that budget is approved, our federal government will make available funds to ensure that we can pay that off as quickly as possible.
Now, let's return to Suleiman Shelin one more time. Sir, how comprehensive and accurate are the pensions records under PETAD? I am asking this question because verification exercise is currently going on in Lagos. Why the verification? Since, of course, you said you have the data. And to add to this question, of course, the federal government just signed into law the 30,000 naira minimum wage. How does that affect pensioners in the long run?
Right. Thank you very much, Kyrian. Like I said earlier, verification exercise for the three other operational departments has been concluded, and for that we have accurate data, and the pensions that we pay these departments are accurate. For the parastatals, which was the latter department to be taken on by PETAD, it came on board in August 2015 as against the orders which were taken on in 2014. We have paid them on inherited payroll, so to speak, for the past 2.5 years or so. Now, this, like I said, is the final phase of the verification exercise. And it's going to be the last phase of any physical exercise that will be conducted by PETAD. After we complete the establishment of this comprehensive database, future verifications will be based on IT-driven processes. Pensioners would not need to come to any physical location to be verified. They will be verified either from the comfort of their homes or through financial institutions. And they don't need to come at any specific time. If we establish that pensioners, for instance, have to establish their life status every 6 months, they could go to their banks within those 6 months. At any time, by the way, it could be from 1st January to 30th June to establish that. And then we will have an integrated payroll that will automatically be updated. Now, on the question of the minimum wage, we know that anytime there is an increment in the minimum wage, there is a corresponding increment in the pension. With the signing of the pension of the minimum wage bill, there is obviously going to be an implication for the pension as well. Now, we are not, we haven't established the corresponding increment yet, but it's something that the Directorate had been working on. We have data, we have figures on how the numbers will be affected if the federal government decide to give the corresponding, I think it's 66% or so increment to the pensioners as well. So we're ready for that. But again, these are policy issues that the government drives. So we will wait for clear pronouncements on pension. But I tell you that the Executive Secretary had been working on it even before the final announcement was made, even before the bill was passed by the House. So we're ready.
What will the exercise extend to other states? What is the timeline like? And what documents do the pensioners need to bring for verification?
Absolutely. This, like I said, is the commencement of the exercise. We're looking to verify close to 120,000 pensioners across the Federation. Now, Lagos is, based on our mapping of pensioners, is home to at least 20% of those pensioners or more. So it's the right place to start. Most of the defunct parastatals and agencies, and then the current ones, are mostly resident in Lagos. Apart from that, over the last 2 years, the federal government had graciously approved the putting onto the pension scheme ex-workers of privatized and defunct agencies like Nitel, Delta Steel, Nikon Corporation, Nigerian Insurance, and so many others. And then the Nigerian National Shipping Line. So the selection of Lagos is to provide pensioners who hadn't been verified when we did the defunct pensioners verification exercise to have the opportunity. And yes, it's going to, in another 2 weeks, this exercise will last till the 9th of May, and then we will move to the South-South zone where we'll be conducting the exercise in Uyo, in Port Harcourt and Benin. And afterwards, in June, we will move to the Southeast, and then we'll move to the North Central, the Northwest, before bringing the conclusion of the exercise in Abuja and North Central, yes.
Okay.
All right. Let's switch to Kaibiru. Kaibiru, just in. All right. Let's switch to Kaibiru. Kaibiru, this question can be taken. The answer can be taken in just a minute. When will PITAD start the payment of benefits accruable to next of kin? Because we have known that for a number of years now, the next of kin of dead pensioners are yet to get their benefit. What is the situation presently?
Okay, PITAD has completely changed that. As a matter of fact, as late as last week, we made payment to next of kin of another set of Nitel, Nikon Insurance, Delta Steel Company, and Nigerian Insurance. So the payments for next of kin of dead pensioners is an ongoing thing. We have prioritized that. Previously, we had paid another batch of pensioners from this category, this group of pensioners, NOKs of this category of pensioners. And then the payment of NOKs of pensioners of universities and health. We've been doing that for the past 3 years. Pensioners, NOKs of pensioners of civil service have also been paid. The police have also been paid. But let me just mention another significant achievement of PITAD under Ms. Ikiazo and overall the federal government under President Muhammadu Buhari. War-affected pensioners from the Civil War, they were pardoned by the Obasanjo administration, and they were left out of the pension scheme. Pardoned since 2000, but it was only under this administration and the leadership of Ms. Ikiazo that they were brought back into the pension scheme and all their entitlements paid. So we're not quite there yet, but after the conclusion of this verification exercise, and with the unprecedented support and commitment that we are getting from the federal government, we will definitely be able to settle all the outstanding pension liabilities, which were huge by the time PITAD was established.
So much for coming on Good Morning Nigeria. Suleiman Sheleng is Director of Parastatus Pensions Department. Thank you so much for coming on the program. And Kabiru Yusuf, Deputy Director of Parastatus Pension Department. Thank you so much for your contribution on the topic. Now, Zimbabwean FA seeking international friendly with the Super Eagles ahead of AFCON 2019 in Egypt, and Super Eagles coach Gernot Rohr rules out the invitation of new players to the Super Eagles squad. Details of these with our sports decks.
Zimbabwean FA is planning to play an international friendly for its national team against the Super Eagles of Nigeria ahead of the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt. The friendly encounter, according to the president of the Zimbabwe Football Association, ZIFA, Felton Kamambo, will likely take place in Nigeria. Super Eagles head coach Gernot Rohr revealed after the draw ceremony for the 2019 AFCON in Giza a few weeks ago that his team will play 2 friendly games against the Black Stars of Ghana and the Teranga Lions of Senegal. The friendly game against Ghana, which is planned for the Stephen Keshi Stadium, Asaba, looked uncertain, with a top official of the Ghana Football Association stating last week that the Black Stars have other plans. Benin has been touted as a possible opponent, but it seems the Zimbabweans will now be visiting Nigeria for the warm-up game. Similarly, Super Eagles head coach Kenneth Raw has ruled out bringing in new players to bolster his squad ahead of the 2019 Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt. The three-time champions are returning to the tournament after missing back-to-back editions in 2015 and 2017. The Super Eagles won the competition on their last appearance in 2013 in South Africa. They have struggled to fill the void created by the shock retirement of the country's most capped player, goalkeeper Vincent Inyama, in 2015, and the premature exit of his replacement Carl Ikeme over health reasons. Raw, who led Gabon to the last 8 of the 2012 Nations Cup on home soil, is focusing on turning his young team into a major force in North Africa this summer.
Advertising your goods and services on the right channel gives you an edge over your competitors. NTA News 24 has all the platforms for your target audience. The station is on DSTV channel 419, GoTV channel 46, StarTimes channel 101, and Free TV channel 703. With our digital format and wide range, we can reach your customers in next to no time. We are eager to promote your business, goods, and services. So, partner with us for a very rewarding business experience. For more information, please call Henry on 0803-379-0884 or visit our office at NTA Headquarters, Area 11, Garki, Abuja. NTA News 24. News and more news.
Thanks for staying. Malaria is one of the #1 killer disease in Africa among children under 5 and pregnant women. In recent years, more adults have also been dying of the mosquito-transmitted disease.
All right, we have in the house 2 ladies to discuss this particular topic. And first, I'd like to introduce Dr. Nnenna Obulafor. Dr. Nnenna Obulafor is the National Malaria Elimination Program. Good morning and welcome to Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning, sir, and thank you for having me.
All right, and of course, we have Dr. Linda Ozo. Linda Ozo is of the World Health Organization. We're glad to have you this morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Yeah, ladies, it's a ladies' affair this time around. Okay, now, malaria is no doubt a major health issue in Nigeria and perhaps other African countries. And they say that malaria is a risk for 97% of Nigerians. Let's look at it, Dr. Obulafor. What's your take on this?
Like you rightly said, malaria is a major public health disease in Nigeria, and Nigerians, especially the program, the National Malaria Elimination Program, it's not just letting it go like that. We've been, all hands have been on board to see that the disease burden is drastically reduced, but we have couple of interventions that we've been doing to that effect. Generally, we are talking to the general populace to say that we need everybody to report, or care seekers to report promptly, early enough, to the health facilities when you have the symptoms of malaria, which majorly entering point is fever. And we're also saying that now it's not all fevers, it's been quite some time. WHO is here too, so it's been quite some time we went away from presumptive treatment. So we're saying when once, each and every one of us come down with that fever, you need to be tested first and make sure that you're dealing with the disease malaria. And thereafter, we're also advocating to the general populace that it has to be the ACTs, the artemisinin-based combined therapy, which targets the parasites from 2 angles. So these are mainly what the program, in Nigeria, it's all emphasizing on prompt treatment-seeking behavior from the populace, and then, of course, the adequate treatment for malaria.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Obolafo. I now come to Dr. Linda Ozo. There have been so many interventions in malaria prevention, and now we have the vector control. So how does it eliminate mosquitoes and help in the prevention of malaria?
Thank you. Vector control, malaria program has enumerated a couple of strategies and interventions for malaria control. And vector control is one of those preventive strategies. And when we say vector control, it simply means that we are targeting the vectors, this time the mosquitoes and the parasites, that's the Plasmodium species in the mosquitoes. And so when you use the vector control approaches in Nigeria, where we have two main thrusts of strategies, interventions, we use the nets, the long-lasting insecticidal nets, or indoor residual spraying. We also have some other supplementary or complementary intervention, the larval source management, which deals with the larvae, deals with habitat modification and environmental modifications. And so all this put together, when you use the vector control approaches, first it gets rid of the vectors, and if the vectors are not there, definitely the parasites will not breed. Suffice to say that not all mosquitoes carry the parasites that can transmit malaria. So the female anopheline are the ones that are incriminated in the disease, and therefore the plan is to make sure that you eliminate all breeding sites for the female anopheline mosquitoes. And once you do that, definitely you begin to reduce the mosquito density, the parasite density, and resultant malaria effects.
Yes, there have been several intervention mechanisms put in place over the years. Of course, according to Dr. Obolafo and Linda of the World Health Organization. But let me ask this question. Is Nigeria winning in this fight? What is your assessment? Because at the last count, it does seem that Nigeria suffers the greatest, world's greatest burden of malaria. So what's your assessment of the level which we've been able to fight this malaria? We have preventive measures. We have also situations where people are treated free of charge at certain hospitals, right? And we also have a situation, where we have registered the increased maternal mortality as a result of malaria. Of course, that means malaria disease attacking a pregnant woman. What's your general assessment?
Like you said, I would like to start by saying that the theme of the World Malaria Day for this year was carefully chosen. And the theme is Zero Malaria Starts With Me. And this means that all of us, all stakeholders, the government, the individual, the private sector, everyone has a role to play. And yes, Nigeria continues to occupy an unenviable position in the malaria landscape. Globally, Nigeria accounts for about 25% of the total burden of disease. In all cases in the world, about 25% of them come from Nigeria. However, with the last complete data that we have, I say complete because we've just concluded another survey, but the result is yet to come out. The last survey showed a decline in malaria prevalence from 42% in 2010 to 27% in 2015. However obsolete, we feel that this is some progress, and we're hoping that this progress would continue. However, in the process of looking at our data, we've also seen some a seeming increase in cases, and so we are trying to understand what the reasons for this increase are. And like you rightly mentioned, the use of interventions is key. For pregnant women, as you pointed out, every pregnant woman is encouraged to use, to get intermittent preventive therapy during pregnancy. And that means that every pregnant woman is expected to have at least 3 doses of IPTP during pregnancy. What it does is that it helps the woman it prevents the woman from getting malaria, thereby protecting the woman and protecting the baby. And like you rightly said, malaria accounts for about 11% of maternal mortality, so it's quite high. And that's why we are working with the reproductive and maternal program to make sure that interventions targeting the women, interventions to reach every woman with malaria intervention is scaled up.
Okay, to be able to implement the zero malaria, you need to have community leaders, community elders, and also. So how much has their participation been, and how has the health education promoting awareness of malaria is currently going on, I believe? Mm-hmm. So how often are these campaigns done, and how do people, relate to the awareness you're giving them, especially in places where they don't have access to hospital or are bedeviled by insurgency like Northeast Nigeria? Most of them are in IDP camps. What is the narrative there in areas like that?
Yeah, thank you very much. Talking about advocacy, it starts with you in the studio. So just, on a lighter note, to say that we shouldn't end this, just closing up malaria after this. Yes. So we need to keep advocating. So talking about what you said in the community, the national program also has a couple of interventions like we've been talking about. We have the ICCM intervention, which is the integrated, we're all in the program now, it's getting integrated. So kind of summing up all the interventions, related sectors in the health sector, pulling programs together to, kind of have more resources to be targeted. So we're doing integrated community case management for childhood diseases, where we're treating malaria, we're also treating diarrhea, and also we're treating pneumonia, 3 diseases in one. So, and that is basically in the community. And that is happening basically in the community. In the IDP camps, we have these interventions going on there. So we're also targeting malaria. We're also kind of treating malaria there. So it's like, a pooled resource, and then focusing on 3 disease components that have, been, according to our data, seen to have had over 80% mortality rate on under 5s, and this intervention is targeted mainly for under 5s in the community. So these are part of some of the things we're doing. Also in the communities, we have the seasonal malaria prevention therapy, which is also going on in the Sahel region of the country, mainly around KB, Bauchi, yes, Zamfara, Sokoto axis, where we have very intense cases, over a short period. So zero malaria starts from me. We are also advocating that, everybody, the media should do their part. Pregnant women, just like my colleague said, should be able to, seek intervention, the preventive intervention when they're pregnant with the IPTP, that is the SPs, starting at least you get 3 doses before, 3 or more, at least 3 doses, or more before you have your baby.
Is it free?
Yes, it's free. Yeah, it's free.
Okay, ladies, we are pressed for time, but that is important aspect of this topic I'd like us to touch. You raised the issue earlier on when you talked about a presumptive treatment. We had a program on this platform where we invited medical personnel to have a discussion on the issue of diagnosis and what have you. And we learned from some of the doctors that presumptive treatment is allowed. They can just, someone can just open your eyes and say, look, you have malaria, so you go and take. So that brings us to the issue of diagnosis. What is the right diagnosis for malaria? And in some cases, there's this mix-up when it comes to malaria diagnosis and what's that fever? Typhoid fever. And in some cases, they say, look,
stress fever too. And they say, I have malaria.
Somebody will say you have both malaria and typhoid at the same time. Can we just do a 1-minute conversation on this? Let's begin with you.
It's very interesting because this is something we're grappling with as a malaria program people. Malaria, we've said this over and over, not all fevers are malaria. And it's important that we champion this message, because we've seen a lot of deaths arising from late presentation of other diseases. People have fevers, they may have had meningitis or something else, but they are treating malaria, thereby delaying the commencement of treatment for the other diseases. And yes, diagnosis is the only way, the only sure way to know that you have malaria. We have very easy, means of diagnosis. The rapid diagnostic test is just a needle prick, and in 10-15 minutes you have your result. It can be done by the bedside, yet a little invasive but very minimally invasive, and it's very the result is very
authentic.
Yes. I'm trying not to use the medical term.
Reliable.
Yeah, it's very reliable.
Now, what's the comment? We're running out of time.
Okay, quickly, we're just saying to the health professionals that, just like my colleague said, is not all fevers that is malaria. And even WHO, some couple of years have said, according to their policy, that you have to test first. Like she said, we have the RDT, Rapid Diagnostic Test Kits, that gives you results under 15-20 minutes, and it's reliable. And then also we have the microscopy, which is done by the laboratory personnel. So we're just saying, appealing to the medical doctors and to the health professionals, as it were, that malaria fever cases should first be tested before you go ahead and treat, to avoid delays, assuming it's not malaria.
Just to add that we're also appealing to the individuals. We have a right to demand for the right things in health. So when you go to a health facility and you're handed malaria treatment without test, please demand to be tested first.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not sure that's going to be possible here from the experience people have been sharing. So let's thank you, ladies, for being part of the final segment of today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria. For us, it's been a marathon or an omnibus about this morning. And at this point, let's appreciate Dr. Nnenna Ubula for the National Malaria Elimination Program in Abuja. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, sir.
And of course, Dr. Linda Ozo of the World Health Organization. It's been a pleasure hosting you this morning.
Thanks for having me.
And Jimmy?
That's it. Good morning, Nigeria. Today's edition of Good Morning Nigeria. We thank you very much for watching. I am Juma Yusuf.
And I am Kirian Umayo. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.